Hello everybody. Today is 10 years since Old School RuneScape first came out. I'd like to see it last another 10 years, 20 years. How do we get there? You look at games like Minecraft that have, really taken off. One of the big things that have helped it take off is the modding community. They're able to make a lot of custom content. You can go play on servers where, like Hypixel, where you play Bed Wars and Skyblock, or other servers like Windcraft, and people have made their own games within games. And so a project I've been working on the past few months, which I call JebScape, is a way to make your own custom content in RuneScape using RuneLite. So I'm going to present my plans, what I've currently got working, and let y'all see it from there. So first off, what is JebScape? JebScape is a RuneLite plugin, and it is available on the Plugin Hub today. It is inspired by the Minecraft and Roblox modding scenes. We have player-driven content creation, and then others can go in and play that content. So it is an upcoming modding platform for Old School RuneScape that'll let you play and chat with others across other worlds in a single massive Megaserver world. I'll explain that in a moment. It'll have a live high scores, and you'll be able to track XP beyond 200 mil as well. And you'll be able to create your own skills, quests, maps, and mini-games using an in-game editor. And others will be able to play your creations on their own custom worlds. And all of this is played on your existing Old School RuneScape account while you're logged into JebScape's servers. This is not a RuneScape private server. And how does this differ from RuneScape private server? So an RSPS, talks to a modified RuneScape client directly using Jagex's protocol. It's a TCP protocol, and they pretend to be Jagex's server. My server, the JebScape server, is a custom UDP-based protocol that tells the RuneLite API what to draw in the game. So you modify what is drawn in Old School RuneScape, and the server tells you what to do. So it's a totally different architecture. Furthermore, an RSPS violates copyright that is Jagex's. It's their models, their client code. They modify that, they distribute it, so that points to their server. And all this leaves them open to copyright infringement lawsuits. This is why they always get shut down. And because JebScape is on the RuneLite plugin hub, and because Jagex distributes RuneLite via their client and the website, indirectly Jagex is distributing JebScape, and that means JebScape must follow all Jagex third-party client rules. I want this to survive and prosper and thrive and grow, and I want this all done with Jagex's cooperation. So, yeah. Another point is, the RuneScape private server community is dominated by people trying to. It's just a money grab machine. They don't care about technology. They don't care about what they're doing with the community. It's just how much can we sell this cosmetic for this much money, or this pay to win aspect for this much money. Old School RuneScape is very much against microtransactions. I've always been against microtransactions, and so for JebScape, you will never be charged microtransactions for playing this, and you wouldn't really be charged. It wouldn't really be right to charge anybody to access existing models in RuneScape, anyways. So. Next, so this is an example of the Megaserver mod. So JebScape is going to be made up of many mods, and today I'm presenting the very first mod called the Megaserver mod. So I'll explain what that is, but take note, you got this ghost here, doing an emote. You got this ghost here talking from another world. 307. This is one 340, 340, World 445. And yeah, so the Megaserver mod. So what is a Megaserver? Which it is an MMO server that is capable of hosting an extremely large number of users in a single non-charted world. So there are some games out there like Elder Scrolls Online and Guild Wars 2, where they use a Megaserver, which is instead of many small worlds, everybody is on a single large world. However, what I'm doing here is I'm basically reinvented the whole notion of a Megaserver, because even those servers use a cluster of servers, and I'm attempting to do this all on a single server node. Like, you have one physical piece of hardware. Although technically there's two physical pieces. One handles the game, one handles the chat. But for all the gameplay stuff, it's one physical server. So the mod right now is a technology demonstrator to stress test the Megaserver technology I'm developing. So this is the backend for JebScape, and so as a proof of concept, it supports cross-world play and chat for the entire old school RuneScape community, as if they were all on a single world. So it'll send data on your movements to the server. It'll determine which players are next to whom, and then it will display those nearby players on your client as ghosts, and you can even chat with them. So because my target audience is the old school RuneScape community, and because the old school RuneScape community has up to, in the low 100,000s of player count, I want to future-proof this. And so everything is designed to support the entire community should it ever need to. So and because I like going for big records, I'm trying to do new stuff that nobody's ever done before. I'm trying to support 131,000 concurrent active users at the same time as my maximum player count. So Jagex, they used to be able to do 2,000, and they struggle to do that now. I'm trying to more than one up them on that regard. And I'm trying to do that all without server lag. So yeah, how can you do that? That's a big question. No MMO has ever accomplished that many players. So there's a few tricks that we can use. So we'll show this in a moment. And then here I'm showing that it even works in the HD mode. So if you like, the high definition graphics on RuneLite, you can turn that on and your ghost will still display. So here's the architecture of how this works. So like I mentioned before, RuneScape private server kind of takes the role of this server here, the world server, and that talks to the client. What we're doing instead is you actually continue talking to the old school RuneScape server like normal, and then RuneLite, loads of the client, and it doesn't actually modify the client. It's just loading in the client from Jagex, and then it'll kind of like inject into it from there. So Jagex approves of RuneLite, and Jagex approves of RuneLite offering plugins. Therefore, our JebScape can talk to that public API that Jagex has approved of, and nothing goes on the hub unless RuneLite approves of it, as following Jagex's rules, which have been published. So I went through the process of getting approved, and they reviewed all of my client code, which they then approved, and so now basically it's on RuneLite. So within the plugin, you have right now, as of today, the Megaserver mod, and then there are future planned mods that are not currently in there. And then you have the backend for JebScape. So here's a game server and here's a chat server. So the plugin will talk to the game server, and it'll get all the clients talking to the game server. It'll figure out who's next to who. It'll come back here to the plugin. Megaserver mod will interpret the packets, and then it'll send it off to the API that RuneLite has to draw new stuff in the scene. RuneLight's API only does, simple objects and like maybe you've seen it in Prop Hunt plugin or something like that. So I've done a lot of code in my JebScape plugin to really animate it and make it feel like a real player that's moving around and have that kind of RuneScape feel. So back to the point of how can I accomplish this many players and do this without lag. First point to mention, even for reading this text, is Jagex has 600 millisecond ticks. Most MMOs don't have ticks that large. So when you have a large tick like that, you actually have a lot of opportunity to stuff a lot more players in there than like a more fast-paced game where if you're having 20 ticks a second, well, that means you've got to have compared to say a game that had 1 second ticks. If you had 20 ticks per second, that means you can have 1/20th as many players that you can support. Is essentially how it goes. So being such a large 600 millisecond tick, it really lets you fit in a lot more. And another point is Jagex did all this back in 2001, 2000. I don't know what RuneScape Classic max was, but like even 2004 when RuneScape 2 came out, and that had a max of 2048. Jagex was doing this almost 20 years ago. So if they could do it then, what can you do on modern hardware that's not single threaded? That's multi-threaded, that has SIMD cores, that is not using Java. And Java is not that good. So basically, what I'm doing here is, so let's just look at the text here. It is written from scratch. I'm not using third-party middleware. I'm not using a bunch of abstractions. I am very close to the metal. I am closer to the metal than even the C language, which is usually known as close to the metal as you can get before assembly. And how I'm doing that is actually using a language called ISPC. So ISPC is like an extension to C that lets you leverage SIMD. So if you're not familiar with programming and maybe some high performance programming especially, SIMD is a way where you can do parallelism within a core and kind of treat it like a GPU, like a little mini GPU. And so you can do 8 things at once, 16 things at once, all on a single core. Very powerful tool. But most software does not use it. Most software is using just one lane in that. So I've written my server to leverage all that parallelism. So that right there, just on a single core, would let you have an order of magnitude improvement from that alone. I'm leveraging an efficient use of cache. So you're not having a bunch of cache misses, and you're prefetching it into the cache as well. So there's instruction level parallelism, data parallelism, and multi-threading. So I've got 16-thread machine. So that's a big plus there. And so these provide, all of these combined provide orders of magnitude improvement over what Jagex does with their job service. Orders of magnitude. How much specifically, I don't know. We'll have to stress test it and see what we can really push out of it. But that's in theory that's what it provides. And the other bit is this is a real-time system. Very few games are actually made with hard or firm real-time requirements in mind. So if you think about, just going back to Minecraft, there are many ways that you can lag a server on Minecraft. And they're called lag machines. Where you have people that, intentionally abuse certain things in the server that will cause it to lag. And things you can do on RuneScape. If you have enough players in one location on RuneScape, it will lag. And, this is a really fundamental problem because, you know, I'm trying to get the entire world running on a single physical server. And I want many different developers to make their own custom content on this single physical server. And so you're going to have different developers, or which are, you know, really players that are developing things, content, and then players, you know, playing such content. And all it takes is all it takes is one nefarious user to try to like tear down the whole system, and then nobody can play on anything. Nobody can hop worlds. Nobody could, do anything about it to get away from the lag. And so, if I'm going to support so many people on just one world, and they have no other option to go to, this world better not lag. And so that's why it's, I've got this part up here handles improving throughput. This down here means guaranteeing latency. So the latency, it must always be able to send, it must always meet that 600 millisecond deadline, period. In fact, it won't even be 600 milliseconds. So the way I've divided it up is roughly, my target is the core processing is 50 milliseconds or less. I want, it receives all of the packets. Once it starts processing all of the game commands to the point that it's done processing them and wants to send them out as packets. Right up until then, that should be less than 50 milliseconds. That's my hard line. And then the kernel is actually a bit slower to send this many packets out to this many players. So my target around that is 100 to 150 milliseconds to actually send out the packets. And that's both the kernel and the bandwidth limit, because I got a 1 gigabit per second connection there. So I've got those, and then the rest of the time can be spent kind of pre-processing for the next tick. So there's a lot of pre-processing you can do that'll kind of prepare you so you can do that once that next tick is ready. As you get packets coming in, you can kind of pre-process some of those to get ready for that next tick, and then you can kind of do a sprint. But so just going on to what this says here, so deterministic performance is, we want to guarantee that these performance numbers, when you're looking at a profiling chart of this, we want these to be flat. And so the way we're going to accomplish that is we are always running at the worst case execution time. So you cannot do any kind of behavior in the game to make the performance run any worse if you're already at the worst case. And if you're already at the worst case, then you can prove out the system and guarantee that it's going to work. And you're not going to have something that slips through the cracks. Okay, so how do we guarantee we're always running at the worst case? Well, the first thing is we're going back to this programming language, ISPC. And so if you've ever done any kind of GPU programming, one of the ways that GPUs handle branching, particularly divergent branching across different lanes, is that they use an execution mask, and it basically executes all branches of the code. So, and it'll just mask out the sides that aren't being used. And so what this one kind of side effect of that is execution times for that are constant. It'll do the true side of the branch, it'll do the false side of the branch. And so we're doing that on a CPU. The program language handles that. And so you don't have branch mispredictions. Everything stays in the cache for the instruction cache, and that's how you get better instruction level parallelism as well. And so no branch mispredictions, meaning whether it's true or false, the execution time is still going to be the same. In fact, we're going to be, not even going to be, this is what's already happening. We loop over every single player session, whether there's a player session or not. So there's no point in optimizing beyond the worst case. So technically how the system's set up is once you hit 8,000 players, it should, 8,000 players online should max out the amount of packets you have, and that'll basically have the same load as 131,000 players. So if it works fine under 8,000, it should work fine under 131,000. So heading back down to the next line here, no dynamic memory allocation. So that means no use of new at runtime when the loop is going. So this is a very common thing in embedded systems. Less common elsewhere in programming, but embedded systems. This is not, so when you call new, it goes to the operating system. It's not bounded. It can take however much time. It'll have memory fragmentation, all sorts of problems. And so this makes performance fluctuate if you use new. So just don't do new. We have basically the stack is where most of my data is allocated. And so I've increased the stack size on the server in order to enable that. And then going on back to the packets. So the kernel is one thing I cannot optimize with SIMD. The kernel's made. I'm not going to go modify their kernel and the networking stack. I'm not going to do all that. Instead, my solution for this is just send out the same number of packets and of the same size. So every player is going to receive 16 packets every single tick, and that occurs up to 8,000 players, at which point these packets are then decreased in quantity per player, keeping a constant 131,000 packets being sent out at 8,000 plus players or beyond, 8,192 or beyond. So, and each packet size is 128 bytes. And if you have below that, then it won't be fully loaded up, but that's okay. So 16 packets. And for the Megaserver mod that lets you see ghosts of other players in other worlds, that effectively is 4 players per packet that is handled there. Let's see. So yeah, these are divided up evenly among the online players to increase the overload on the system. The other point about the packets is that they're all self-contained, and because it's UDP, you may drop packets. They may come in out of order. It's okay. If any of this happens, each packet can live by itself and not require knowledge of a previous packet. That's an important point, so I don't have to have TCP coming in and trying to halt the system or resend packets or any of that. It can survive off of a few missed packets. Not a big deal. That's a very important thing to have in the protocol. And one of the perks of designing my own protocol and not using what Jagus has. And then here's what I said earlier. No player actions can increase or decrease the server load. Performance remains consistent. It's constant. It doesn't fluctuate. Huge perk. This is not done in any other game server actually that I'm aware of. So, So this is a nice solid real time system. The other question comes up is will this cost money? I have spent nearly $3,000 at this point on this project. I've bought a build server with the specs that I'm using to host on I don't want to say the cloud. It's a bare metal server. So I got two bare metal servers. One of them a little bit more powerful than the other. That's the game server, and then the chat server is less powerful. And then I have a machine at home that I built using the same specs as the more powerful game server, so that I can develop and test at home while not interfering with the live server and not having to pay a monthly price just to develop and test my new builds. So I've got that at home and I can test that here, but that costs money, and then it costs money to prototypes of different solutions. It costs money to just test the real servers that I've deployed and get those going. So right now they've been going for a couple of months, so I had to pay for those. So all this is costing about $200 a month, a little bit more. I also donated $400 to RuneLite. JebScape wouldn't be possible without RuneLite, so I wanted to help support them. But yeah, it'll be about $3,000 a year just for server hosting each year. So that's what I've already put in a commitment for the next 2 years. But in spite of all this, I want to make this free to everybody. So the Megaserver mod specifically is free. So this is what lets you have ghosts that see each other in other worlds. Other features in the future may require a persistent player profile. So right now you log in as a guest, and so that it's a non-persistent account. You don't need to persist any data. I need a mechanism for persisting data in the future, and I need a way to do this without having nefarious actors coming in and using up too many resources on the server, spamming things up, or when I make the live high scores, are they gonna put in a bunch of fake data on the high scores? So there needs to be a way to prevent bots from doing that. So the guest system prevents you from logging in more than 3 accounts at once per IP address. And when you have a persistent player profile, we got to say, this isn't a guest account, this is an actual account. I'm going to have a small one-time fee. I'm thinking $3 just as a one-time thing and not a subscription. And this is just so you can get, product key, which is like a password kind of thing. You keep it secret, and you'll be able to secure your own JebScape account. And nobody's going to then be able to take your name on Gemscape and pretend to be you, kind of thing. But that's in the future. That's not now. And then those making custom content on the server, I think that's where I want to target, trying to pay for all this. So I don't want the players to have to pay for all this. I want it to be like, okay, hey, you're making a bigger custom world on JebScape, and this requires more long-term cost on my server, a kind of permanent cost. Hey, you're permanently increasing the database size, and I have an in-memory database that's using up memory. You want a larger map. You want to have more NPCs, and I got to always be running that on my server, and resources, performance. I have a performance budget available, so like all these resources that are scarce on the server, that's where I think I would charge money for. So if you want to get a bigger map, you want to do extra features, you want to have more stuff, that's what I would charge for. But at the same time, I don't want to make it a monthly subscription, because I'm able to. I don't want it to be like you've unlocked so much stuff that the monthly costing goes up and up and up and up and up, and then you can't afford it, and then you shut it down, and then nobody can play your game. Like, I don't want it. Like, it needs to be a one-time cost. You unlock something, and then that's it. And this is only for developers that are making new content. I don't want players to have to pay more. I'm also open to licensing this to other companies. This server technology, Megaserver technology, is very different from how it's been done, and it doesn't have to be specific to games. But you can use this for other industries. And so, if anyone else is out there, interested in using this, having a lot of concurrent active users and doing things in parallel in Cindy, and instead of tossing hardware at the problem. So, that's a really big thing. So a lot of web companies, MMOs, they have such inefficient code that they end up solving it through a distributed backend where you have a lot of hardware to handle all the slow code, and it gets really, really expensive. So, I don't know Jagex's financials in detail. I've seen their report where they say, their server technology and paying for the staff to manage it and everything is $20 million a year. They're probably spending hundreds of thousands a month just on the hardware alone, just to host it. I'm spending $200 a month. Those are huge savings that any company, if they could just make fewer, make their back end work on less hardware, that's a huge savings there. So. Totally interested in that, licensing this out, and if anyone else wants to make custom client that talks to JebScape and actually do it like within RuneScape, that's something I'm working, willing to talk to people about as well. And you can also optionally donate on Patreon. If you do want to help support it, there is an ongoing monthly expense for the server. So if you want to, show your support and subscribe monthly, you can do $3 there too a month or something, and that'll help pay for the server hosting. So next slide. When is this available? So as of today, an early release. I want to make it very clear, early, of the Megaserver mod is available today. I do not want to be one of those people that do the big hype train, where it's, hey, we're promising all this stuff in the future, and we're never going to have anything be playable for years and years, and maybe they don't deliver, maybe nothing shows up or anything like that. I don't want to be like one of those. I want, if I'm given a lot of detail about something, I want it to be you guys should play it. So right now, as of today, you can see ghosts of yourself. Here it is. You can see ghosts of yourself, or you can't see yourself. You see ghosts of other players in other worlds, and you can talk to them and watch them skill. You can mine. You can be mining in the quarry, and then you can see other people in other worlds mining the quarry, things like that. You can do agility, whatever. But really, this is very early. There's a lot of bugs, but the players move and feel like real players, like as they normally move in the game. But the use of ghosts is temporary. All of this is a stepping stone. So I'm pushing this out kind of like an MVP kind of thing, where this is like the minimum viable. It's not even really product at this point, but this is like minimum viable piece of technology. It is a proof of concept to show that, hey, I can handle a lot of players. I want to stress test what I can, how many players I can do, and I want to prove that I can do that. I want to show that, hey, you can change what you draw in the client, that you can make actual, interactive players in the client, not just dumb models showing. And, so this is a proof of the technology, but it's also a stepping stone so that over time I can add feature after feature after feature. RuneScape wasn't built on a day either. RuneScape had little features added over many, many years, and so this is kind of going along that line, where you're always going to have a working version out there, and it's just going to get more and more features added onto it. And I always want there to always be a working version. I don't want it to be like, oh, hey, you guys are sitting around waiting for something, and you can't play anything or can't use anything. So in that note, the use of ghosts is temporary. So in the future, the plan is I want to be able to show your entire player model. Why should everybody be a ghost? You should be able to see your cape and how your character looks like and all that stuff. And all that's going to be important once you actually get to the custom content and having your player running around the world and all that stuff. So you'll need that at some point. And yeah, so you can find JebScape on the plugin hub. RuneLink just updated where they put their plugin hub, so it's actually now in the top right. So you don't have to scroll to the very bottom anymore. So you just go here, you type in JebScape, it'll show up, and then you can click install. As of the time of this video, there's a little GUI glitch where it'll get stuck on like installing, but it actually did finish installing. You just gotta switch back to this wrench or something, you'll see it. But yeah, you can just continue playing like that. And here's that image again that I showed at the beginning. Take note, doing obstacles here, doing this here, I'm over here, and they'll see me on this other world. And yeah, I'll show you a demo of it live. One moment. So what you're looking at here is Jebrum I. So this is another one of my accounts. It's on another world. It's on world 323. You can see that right down here, world 323. I'm on this world. And so on this account, I can run around. Well, actually, I'm walking once. Yeah, there we go. I'm running around. So this is on 117 HD. You don't have to use the HD mode if you don't want, but it's on 117 HD. I can let's see, come here, wave to you. So, what's that wave? Here it is. See, I'm waving. I can go and there's a man on this other world. So come over here. I'm going to pickpocket that man. I can attack a man. Obviously, you don't see the man, but he's, you know, punching the man. So, and I can even say hi across worlds. One of the bugs is actually that this text is occasionally going the wrong place. So, yeah, so I got a Discord server. I'll have links in the description, but there's a Discord server. If you can see bugs, report the bugs. So this, not Jeb, was another player I was talking to earlier, so he's in the chat there. And let's see, what else can I show? This is a custom thing I have going. So this is not available on the published client. This is just something so I can monitor the server performance. So right now there are 5 people logged into the JebScape server. You know, this is just released yesterday, and I haven't really announced it yet. And these are 2 accounts. I'm online here, and then my Gemini account's online in another world. So there's 3 others. So with 5 people on, these times are microseconds. And right now, this is all running on 1 thread for now. So core time is the time it takes to do the game processing. That is separate from the time it does to do packet processing. So receiving and sending packets are not included in this time. Total time is currently, at least, the time it takes to do. Oh, look! Hey, there's somebody. So I haven't seen this person before, but yeah, we got company here. But yeah, total time is the time it takes to do the core processing plus the packet processing. And then post time is some kind of post-processing time after all the packet processing has been done. So really the total tick time is this time plus this time. And these units are in microseconds. So really this is 0.2 of a millisecond. So, you know, definitely within my constraints here. So let's see what Beefski is doing. How are you enjoying? Have you found anyone else yet? Ah, you just installed it. You're on YouTube. Alright, well, come on in. You know, this is a test demo, technology demonstrator, so come help me improve this technology. So, yeah. See you on JebScape.